Hi, and welcome to the 6th edition of the Open Source Video Blog. This is a live stream covering news about open source software and hardware. It's October, so happy Oktoberfest and happy Open Source Hardware Month. I was supposed to do this live stream a week earlier, however, I was quite busy in my work. You can see my bird. So I'm catching up, better late than never. And today we're going to cover the news from September and the first week of October. This edition of the Open Source Video Blog is coming to you thanks to PCBWay. This is a Chinese company specialized in PCB prototyping and assembly. There is a $5 welcome bonus, so launch your web browser, type in PCBWay.com, and in the right upper corner you see the link to register. If you're new, you get pretty much a free prototype for your first order. It's a nice deal, isn't it? And if you don't have ideas what kind of type of printed circuit board you need, by the end of this edition of the Open Source Video Blog, you have some ideas. Furthermore, PCBWay has directory structure with various projects which you can use for inspiration. And since it's October, the first event that I would like to cover is Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest 2020 started on 1st of October. It's organized by GitHub, DigitalOcean, Intel, Dev, and many other companies. The rules are straightforward. The idea is very clear. You have to make contributions to open source projects in GitHub and get a lot of swag as a reward. This is a t-shirt that I have from the previous year. Let me show it. If you can see it, yeah. So what you have to do is to find an open source project and contribute to it. However, after the launch of Oktoberfest on 1st of October, pretty much a week earlier, from today, GitHub slightly changed the rules. During the first few days, any GitHub pull request counted. Of course, first of all, you need to register. So pretty much you go there, you register for Oktoberfest, and after that you start making your GitHub pull requests. So at the beginning, any GitHub pull request counted. However, a few days ago, I got an email saying that either the public project in GitHub, hosted in GitHub, should have the Oktoberfest tag, or you should add this tag to your GitHub pull request. Still, it seems quite straightforward, and you can make some contributions and join the open source community if you haven't done it so far. I'm personally planning to make a few GitHub pull requests. The minimum number to get a cool t-shirt from Oktoberfest is 4 GitHub pull requests that are approved. However, I'm a little bit busy. Hopefully during this weekend I'll start doing it. Let me know in the comments if you have already done some GitHub pull requests and if you are participating in this edition of Oktoberfest. And if not, you still have plenty of time to start. It's something that is worth doing. We're speaking about GitHub, so I would like to share with you some interesting news. GitHub launched a code scanning function. It's a long story because in September last year, GitHub acquired the code analysis platform provider. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of this company, Schema? I don't know. Anyway, so they acquired this code analysis platform provider in September 2019, and in the end of September this year, actually on 30th of September, they publicly launched a service for developers to easily find security vulnerabilities before they reach production. They did this after extensive beta testing. GitHub initially launched this service for beta testing in May this year. So after 4 months of testing at the end of September, GitHub made the code scanning generally available, and it's something that you actually can use for Oktoberfest. And if you find a vulnerability in the source code, you can fix it with a GitHub pull request and this way you can participate in Oktoberfest. Just an idea if you're looking for some ideas how to join Oktoberfest. The GitHub code scanning feature is not open source itself, so it is free for public open source repositories. So if you are maintainer or contributing to an open source repository hosted in GitHub, you can use it for free. However, it is part of the GitHub advanced security feature for GitHub Enterprise for paying users with private repositories. We are continuing on with some important events happening throughout the whole month of October. The Open Source Hardware Association is organizing the Open Source Hardware Month. The idea is that they are asking the community to host events in the name of open source hardware. Last year, here in my hometown in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, we had a local event for both Oktoberfest and the Open Source Hardware Month in the same day. One of the local companies, SiteGround, which has excellent office here in Plovdiv, gave us the opportunity to make this event in 2019. Unfortunately, 2020, due to the pandemic, it's a very, very specific year, and we cannot host, due to security concerns, we cannot host any events with gathering a lot of people. Probably will make something that's virtual. So anyway, the Open Source Hardware Association is providing some resources, and they're asking you to start contributing open source hardware projects. Also, the Open Source Hardware Association is looking after the hardware certification service, which is free. So if you have created free and open source, an open source hardware device, you can certify it by the Open Source Hardware Association certification program. It's pretty straightforward. Visit OSHWA website to learn more about the Open Source Hardware Month. Now we'll focus on more web development news. I bet everyone knows what Python is. It's a high-level interpreted general-purpose programming language. It was created actually 30 years ago. Can you believe it? Yeah, Python turned 30 years now in 2020 because it was created in 1990. Version 3.9 was released on 7th of October. It brings many minor improvements and new features, including dictionary merge and update operators, as well as new methods to remove prefixes and suffixes from strings, really convenient functions, which are known as remove prefix and remove suffix. Furthermore, Python 3.9 uses a new parser. It's based on PEG, which is roughly comparable as performance with the old parser. However, it provides greater flexibility, and the maintainers of Python promise that they'll take advantage of this flexibility for the new release, which is going to be 3.10. But for the moment, version 3.9 of Python is the stable version. Of course, I'm pretty sure you know this, but I have to remind that Python 2 has been officially done deal. The support for Python 2 ended at the beginning of this year. And if you still have any software written in Python 2, it's highly recommended to rewrite it and to make it compatible with Python 3. Another thing related to a new release. GNOME, which is a free and open source desktop environment for Linux Unix systems. It's mainly written in C, C++, Python, JavaScript, but it also uses a variety of different languages such as HTML, XML. Furthermore, there are language bindings which allow you to use GNOME features from various other programming languages. If you are a Linux user, most probably, especially Linux desktop user, most probably you are already familiar with GNOME. So the next version of GNOME will have a new version number. These are the big news. The current stable version is 3.38. It was released in the middle of September this year. And the next stable version will be number 40. It's expected in March 2021. So basically the idea that it will be easier to track down changes. Obviously the changes will not be super major, so it won't be like GNOME 4. Instead, from GNOME 3.38, it's moving to GNOME 40 and expected in the spring of next year. Das U-Boot. Das U-Boot is a free and open source primarily bootloader. It is used on embedded devices supporting various different computer architectures, most notably ARM, RISC-V, MIPS, x86, of course x86 64, PowerPC, and many more. The project started back in 1999. And if you are using embedded devices, specifically development boards such as Raspberry Pi, or devices with OINR systems on a chip, or with IMX6, you can use, and most probably you are already using U-Boot. However, I have to say that by default, the Raspberry Pi OS doesn't come out of the box with U-Boot, but U-Boot is supported on Raspberry Pi, and it works great there. So the new release of U-Boot, which is 2020.10, obviously the new release naming follows the year and the month in which it was released, and it was released actually a couple of days ago on 5th of October 2020. It contains many improvements, including support for new development boards such as RockPi, Odroid Go 2, Odroid C4, Odroid N2. So if you're looking to buy any of these boards, you can use mainline U-Boot with the latest release on them. Now, how many of you are using KiCad? KiCad is a free and open source software tool for designing printed circuit boards. And this episode of the open source video blog is actually full with a lot of news about open source hardware. And KiCad, although it's a software tool, it's essential for the open source hardware movement, because there is nothing better to design open source hardware with free and open source software. KiCad 5.1.7 was released at the end of September. It contains critical bug fixes and other minor improvements, as well as improved footprint, symbol, and 3D model libraries. Furthermore, the last weekend, KiCon, which is the KiCad conference, took place as a virtual event. It was of course, the initial plans were about physical events, but considering the circumstances in 2020, it switched to a virtual event. So you can see the developer Q&A, which was live streamed on the YouTube channel of KiCad. I highly recommend you to subscribe to the KiCad channel in YouTube and to have a look at this particular video. It's like a 2-hour video. The developers are describing their plans for future releases. They're showing some of the new features that are coming into the new major release. They also discussed the release cycles, because at the moment KiCad is having like something like 2-year release cycle for a major release, and eventually they were discussing the opportunity that it might change to a shorter period. We'll see how this will work out. The big news about KiCad is that KiCad 6, which is the next major release, is now in feature-free state. This means that no new features will be accepted, and the developers will focus on hardening and making the existing features which have been already accepted very stable. The expected release of KiCad 6 is the end of January or the beginning of February. This is because of FOSDEM. Wayne, the lead developer of KiCad, in general is having a talk at FOSDEM where he presents the new version of KiCad with all new features and things that have happened. And FOSDEM is scheduled as a virtual event for the first weekend of February 2021. And I hope that by that time we'll have KiCad 6. I would like to remind you that the open source video blog is sponsored by PCBWay. PCBWay is a company specialized in PCB prototyping. And now we're moving on to the open source hardware news. So PCBWay is an excellent sponsor for this section, because actually all the projects that you're gonna see in the next slides are open source hardware, which means that you can grab the Gerber files and you can manufacture the PCBs. And PCBWay is excellent choice to manufacture printed circuit boards. Here is a screenshot from their website. So you can see that you can customize the appearance of your board when you place an order with PCBWay. I personally enjoy using the green solder mask. However, I know that some people like different colors, so there is an option for red, for yellow, for blue, for white, black, purple, matte black, and matte green. Really a lot of options. Furthermore, there is an option to choose the seal screen. I personally go with this a very standard combination with green solder mask and white seal screen. However, I'm tempted to give it a try with some more bizarre color combinations. If you are also interested to see your printed circuit board in a different color, go to PCBWay.com and give it a try. PCBWay offers very fast shipping using various courier services at affordable prices. And as I mentioned previously, there is a welcome bonus, so you can get pretty much a free PCB if you are a new user that has just signed up for PCBWay. Now we're moving on with the certified open source hardware projects by the Open Source Hardware Association is in September. There have been numerous new projects that were certified. It's really amazing. Projects by individuals, projects by companies. I don't have enough time to list all of them. It's really, really amazing. You should go to the Open Source Hardware Association website and have a look at the certification directory for all the details. I just want to mention some of the companies that made major contributions by certifying their open source hardware designs in September. Adafruit Industries from the US, it's a well-known company. Pi Supply from the UK, and Electronic Cats, which is a company from Mexico. Furthermore, I would like to highlight 3 projects which are specifically important because these are the first projects from certain countries that are open source hardware certified. Relay Mode is the first certified open source hardware product from Costa Rica. Congratulations. DRV is the first certified projects from Lithuania. You can see it here. And there is the Smart Batch, which is the first certified product from Guatemala. Pretty much the open source hardware movement is now a global thing. There are certified projects from all around the world, and if you're living in a country where there is still no certified projects, you have the unique opportunity, you still have it, to register your product and to be the first in your country with certified open source hardware project. Keep in mind that the whole program for certification by the Open Source Hardware Association is completely free. The registration takes just a few minutes, in which you explain in a few words your project. You provide some links so that people from Oshawa can have a look at it. And if everything is okay, in a few days you get it certified. It's super simple. I would like to highlight a few other projects that were certified as open source hardware in September. The first one is from Great Scott Gadgets. Actually, he has certified 2 super cool projects. The first one is Yardstick One. It's a sub 1 GHz wireless test tool controlled by your computer. It was certified on 12th of September. And there are so many certified projects in the US. You can see here the certification number. So I have explained this in the previous episode of the open source video blog, but I'll just repeat it just in case someone don't remember it. So this is the prefix from the country, and this is the number of the certified project. However, keep in mind that this number corresponds not only to the name of the product, but also to the version. So if you make a new version of an open source hardware product, you have to certify it again and to get a new number for it. Another tool from Great Scott Gadgets is Ubertooth One. It's an open source 2.4 GHz wireless development platform suitable for Bluetooth experimentation. It has been certified again by the Open Source Hardware Association on 19th of September. Furthermore, Great Scott Gadgets are also the manufacturers of HackerF RF1, which has been also certified. Now, I would like to mention a few words about my own open source hardware initiatives and projects. Although I'm an open source engineer, I do open source hardware in my spare time, and thanks to crowd supply and very modest crowdfunding campaigns, I'm able to give these open source projects to other people. I'm super happy that Anavi Fume Extractor was successfully manufactured here in my hometown. Over the weekend, I've tested the units, packaged them, and on Monday morning they started their journey to the warehouse. After that, the crowd supply team will start shipping them to backers, and I expect this to happen really soon in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Furthermore, there is an ongoing crowdfunding campaign for my first keypad. It's a very small keyboard that I'm actually using right now. I've already showed it with you. It's very convenient for live streaming because I have integrated with OBS, and with single click I can switch between scenes. So the crowdfunding of Anavi MacroPad 8 ends in a few hours. You can still order it at Crowd Supply. It will be also manufactured in Plovdiv, Bulgaria. So the idea is that I have contracts with small local companies, including for PCB manufacturing and assembly services, and thanks to their help, I'm able to make things here in Europe. Now, moving on, pretty much we're coming to the end of the this episode of the open source hardware open source video blog. However, as usual, I would like to share with you some events. Once again, to repeat, October is the month of Oktoberfest and the open source hardware month. I highly encourage you to make GitHub contributions to open source projects, as well as to certify an open source hardware project at the certification directory of OSHWA. Now, there are a lot of conferences. In general, October and November are very, very busy seasons for conferencing. As you can see, most of these conferences, actually all of them, will be virtual. The disadvantage of virtual conferences is obviously that it's a different time zone for everybody. You cannot have a face-to-face normal meeting with your friends, co-workers, and in the open source community, you know that quite often people work together on a daily basis, but they're literally in different parts of the world. So the conferences are a good opportunity for these people to meet in face-to-face, to have a drink, and to discuss the future of the projects they are working on. Unfortunately, this is not happening this year as usual. We all miss it. I'm sure we all miss it. However, virtual events have some significant advantages. First of all, you don't spend many hours on airplanes or waiting at airports for transferring flights, and you can visit many events, far more than if you are visiting them in person. So starting with this weekend, there is ARC conference online. This is Arch Linux conference. They have some interesting topics. It's going to be an event that is going to be live streamed. Right after the end of this video, you'll find links below in the description of the video, and there will be links to all these events. The Open Source Summit is organized by the Linux Foundation. Previously, it was known as LinuxCon. It's a co-located event with the Embedded Linux Conference Europe. It was supposed to happen in Dublin. However, it's going to happen as a virtual event. It's going to be on 26th and 29th of October. I'll be joining it as a speaker. It's a really awesome event. You can still register. The schedule is up online. Have a look at the schedule. There's so many talks, amazing talks. Really an event that's worth visiting. And the Linux Foundation is they have an excellent expertise in organizing events. It's amazing how easily and how smoothly, from the outside perspective of me as a visitor and speaker, they've switched from physical events to virtual events back in the summer for the open source summit in North America. And now they're doing the same for open source summit in Europe, as well as Embedded Linux Conference Europe. After that, in November, there are several events that I would like to highlight. OpenFest. OpenFest is the largest open source conference here in Bulgaria. If you haven't been in Bulgaria, OpenFest is a great opportunity for you to join Bulgaria, however, to visit Bulgaria. However, not this year, because this year it's going to be an online event. I'm part of the volunteers at OpenFest. It's going to be different. Of course, it's going to be different. We'll see how it goes. I just want to tell you that Big Blue Button is going to be the free and open source software used for streaming the talks at OpenFest. There will be talks in English and Bulgarian. The call for papers is still open. It was supposed to close today, however, tonight actually. However, it was extended, as far as I know, it was extended for a few days. So if you have an interesting topic, and I know that a lot of developers are watching this open source video blog, if you have an interesting topic, please go ahead and submit it to OpenFest 2020. It's going to be online event, so you'll just be sitting in front of your computer, pretty much what I'm doing right now. And it's a great way to join. You can submit proposals in both English and Bulgarian. Another conference happening on November, a few days after OpenFest, is FOSDEM. Furthermore, pretty much at the same time, Linux App Summit is happening. It's on 12th. It's between 12th and 14th of November. Another event which is actually happening at the beginning of the next year is the Things Conference. It's organized by the Things Network. It's an event about World One, and it's going to be a virtual event, and they are planning some physical events all around the world. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out, but yeah, it's going to be mixed between physical events and virtual online event. I think this is the future. I'm pretty sure that in a few years, where we're all safe and healthy, there will be still this type of virtual events and events that have both virtual and physical presence. Now, the most important news with which we're gonna wrap up the open source video blog, or actually not. So the major news, FOSDEM 2021. This is my favorite conference. It's amazing. It happens in January in Brussels. Unfortunately, again, it should be moved to online event. I'm a little bit worried how it's going to work out when it's online event, but we'll see. Let's try something new. So FOSDEM stands for Free and Open Source Software Developers European Meeting, FOSDEM. Although nowadays you can find a lot of open source hardware talks as well. It's a free event, so there's no registration, no cost to go there. You just have to be in Brussels in the first weekend, in general, to be in Brussels in the first weekend of February, and go to the free university there and join some of the talks. It's a great place for software developers to meet, share ideas, and collaborate. However, this year, I repeat, FOSDEM 2021, actually next year, FOSDEM 2021 will be an online event. Visit fosdem.org/2021 to learn more details. The call for papers for the various developer rooms should be open. I'm not sure if it's open. And you should expect the schedule to be announced in about like December. So it's going to be a great event. FOSDEM is totally awesome. I really recommend you to visit it. What inspires me most about FOSDEM that this is a place where you can meet some very experienced developers as well as students. So especially for young people, it's a great opportunity to meet experienced people from the industry, to exchange ideas with them, to get some advices, and also to share their own ideas, because young people have a lot to share. And speaking about young people, last but not least, there is the ASTRO mission Space Lab. The idea here is that teams of young people design and program a scientific experiment to run on the board of the International Space Station. It is for age 19 and under, supervised by a teacher or a mentor. Mentors can apply with their ideas by 23rd of October. So if you haven't heard about AstroPi yet, go to astropi.org and apply by 23rd of October. I repeat, this is for mentors should apply, but the teams should be from people at the age of 19 or under. Pretty much these are students from high schools and schools. The AstroPi mission started a few years ago when the Raspberry Pi Foundation launched a specific hat, which was after that called Sense Hat, with a Raspberry Pi on the International Space Station, and they were running some applications. I think most of them were written in Python, not sure, but that's what I remember, making some scientific experiments in space. Really cool thing to get young people excited about space exploration and programming, something that actually goes together, but people sometimes don't realize it. So yeah, give it a try. If you know teachers around you, recommend them this event because it's totally awesome and it's worth submitting an idea as a mentor. Thank you very much for watching the open source video blog. It says August, but actually it's not August. It's September and October, the first week of October. This episode was sponsored by PCBWay. Thank you very much, PCBWay. So if you need a PCB prototyping service, I highly recommend you to visit pcbway.com. Personally, I have used their services in the past. They provide excellent quality and fast shipping. Thank you very much for watching again. Sorry that it's a bit late. This episode was supposed to go live at the end of September. However, I was really busy and I did it now. I hope to catch up, but I'm not exactly sure. Most probably the next episode will be in about a month, in the beginning of November. We'll see how things will go. I'm doing this just for fun, so pretty much when I have time, I turn on YouTube and give it a try. Let me see if there are any comments. I don't see any comments, but thank you very much for joining. I hope it was worth it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned some interesting things. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, leave me a comment if you think I've missed something, and I missed a lot of news because the open source community is going bigger and bigger and bigger. It's super big. Some of my friends even told me that probably in 5 or 10 years, open source will be the way how the majority of the developers work. Fingers crossed that this is going to happen. It sounds too optimistic to me, but obviously we can see that more people are working on open source projects in 2020 compared to 2010, a decade ago. So why not? Thank you once again. Please leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Leave a comment how to make it better. There are so many things that I should improve. I'm not very good at making this video, but I'm trying to get better. And of course, please leave a comment to share some news that I'm missing, something that you would like to see in the next episode of the open source video blog. Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening. It's almost midnight here, so I'll be going to bed. It was a pleasure being with you, and thank you. Bye-bye.